Hello and welcome to the CSR Journal. Today we have Mr. Sanjay Behl, CEO of Raymond with us. Hello, sir.
Hi.
So, firstly, we would like to know in brief about CSR activities taken up by Raymond.
In fact, Raymond Group has been fairly active in CSR for over 5 decades now. The first real CSR initiative in education area by setting up schools in the country, and then a very active intervention really happened in 1997 by setting up a specific trust for CSR activities in the group, which is JK Trust, Gram Vikas Yojana, which was set up in 1997 and till now has touched about 30,000 villages in over 122 districts in 8 states. There are fundamentally 4 initiatives that Raymond Group runs. The JK Gram Vikas Yojana is the cattle breed program, which is the cattle breed improvement program, which improves the yield of the milk that cattle give by cross-insemination programs. It reaches about 30,000 villages, as I said. And today there are about close to over 3,500 livestock development centers in the country run by Raymond. So that's a very, very massive program. It touched over 3 million lives in India and has not only improved the health of children who get malnutrition under age of 12 by providing them high yield milk, but also has dramatically improved the livelihood of about 3 million families in the country. The first of the other 3 programs is around tailoring skills. We have something called Skill Tailoring Institute, which is run by Raymond across 6 states in the country. It's an employability linked program where we take unemployment youth, typically 10th or 12th pass children who are looking for skills to get employed, and we offer them tailoring, which is directly linked into some level of employability, whether it's within the region or at Raymond itself. So we've trained over 2,000 students already in the last 3 years across the 6 institutes. It's not just in Bihar now, where we started with, but it's also in Bengal. It's in UP. There are centers. There are 2 centers in Rajasthan now, and they just take the students and run 6 to 12 months courses for giving them skills.
So is that also linked to employment?
Yeah, it is. So we have been able to, it's 100% employment record. Once you get certified with Raymond Tailoring Institute, it's been recognized by the Directorate of Education of India. So it's a government recognized program now. It's with the public partnership of state governments who give us land, and we put up our building and we put up our technology and all the equipment there. So we run the courses in partnership with state governments across the country, and so we are training people.
All the youth that you train are absorbed by Raymond itself?
There's an option of them getting absorbed if they want to get absorbed, but a lot of women would like to go back to their villages. They want to start on their own. The third big initiative Raymond does is in the area of education, wherein we have, as I said, we started our first school, which is in Thane itself in 1968. It's Sulochana Devi Singhania School. It has been rated as one of the top schools in India forever. Taking on from there, we started a school in Chhindwara, which was in 1992, and then followed it with a school in Vapi in 2013, and it's really 2014 when the session really started last year. So we have 3 schools running now, which absorb close to about 5,000 to 6,000 students. So we are in the areas of education now. And the other area that we are doing is also vocational training for unemployed youths through Raymond Rehabilitation Centers. One of them is running in Thane, another one runs in Chhindwara, where we take people from community, underprivileged people from community, and we give them training either like plumbers or any specific skill like electrician or technicians, equivalent of an ITI equivalent training, so that they can get employable.
Okay. Now, as you said about cattle or animal husbandry, I would say, what takes a textile major, focusing into animal husbandry?
I think it's the intent and the vision of the promoters. And it's really that there is an organization which is so dependent and has got so inclusive social programs running. And if this comes in terms of a major area of our understanding or our contribution, so it need not necessarily be linked with exactly. It's like what does take Raymond into education? Yeah, well, we are a textile and apparel company.
Right.
So I think once the intent is there for inclusive social growth by a company, then any area where you think and you can contribute becomes an open area for evaluation, for community responsibility.
How does Raymond go about in planning and strategizing the CSR budget and its implementation?
Yeah, so I think the whole exercise really starts not in terms of having a budget in mind, but having a purpose in mind. I think so. We have our teams across these villages. So all these teams would come to us as and when with some level of 3 to 5 year program, and then an annual intervention that they would need depending on the opportunity they see at the ground level. And it's really at that level that we look at wherever we can as an organization make a meaningful difference, and if it is aligned with our larger purpose in these 4 areas, that we decide on our plan.
As you said, you have 4 pillars, 4 major work areas. So how do you go about the need assessment before launching a program?
I think it really comes with having some of the passionate or inspirational leadership in each of these areas. The passion of that leadership which really decides the future direction for the company in terms of investment, rather than, well, education is always going to be in need in India, so we can keep expanding, but it's really about how much do our teams in individually each of these areas feel that we can contribute meaningfully is what really sets up our direction. So it's the animal husbandry team or the JK Trust team which will come to us and say that, okay, here is another 5,000 villages that they are ready to adopt in the next 3 years. And one would see that, are we making a meaningful difference more than numbers? And if we are, then we would probably take up their plan and really start looking at how do we now do some meaningful partnership.
Do you think companies are missing on the sustainability angle in the race to be good CSR spenders?
I have seen a lot more companies getting into it than they were about a decade back. So I'm encouraged to see that. I'm energized to see that companies are, a lot of organizations are, a lot of management teams are getting more and more responsive to the concern on inclusive growth, societally inclusive growth, and environmental concerns. So whether it's really there where all the private industry, public industry is really doing everything that they can, of course not, and there is a lot more can be done. But I'm encouraged to see that more and more companies are keeping it as part of not a CSR agenda, but as an organizational agenda.
Companies had been doing philanthropic activities since many years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think, are you in the favor of mandate rather?
I think what is required is a realization that no real growth is complete without societal inclusion. Yeah? If that's really understood, because we take so much from the society, and that it's only our moral responsibility to make sure that the society also grows along with the organizational growth. I think if that, rather than having a mandate, a written down rule with every organization, which is unlikely to really have an effect, I think that realization, if it starts coming across the boards of the companies, the management team, the leadership team in the company, I think you will have a very rapidly developing societal indices.
Legacy of 90 years. Raymond has many awards to its kitty in various different areas. But what does Raymond do to ensure it is responsible as a business venture?
For us, the award is inclusive growth, along with every pop strata of society, every demography of society there, whichever way we work. And we've really, really committed. And just to give you an example, we set up a factory about 25 years back in a backward district of Madhya Pradesh, which is Chhindwara. That was in 1990. It was fairly backward in any indices you want to take, in human development indices, in cultural development indices, and skill development indices, whichever indices you want to take there. We set up a factory there, and it's not only that we do generate employment for over 4,000 families through a factory, but we've also run tribal development programs there. We run one of the best schools there in terms of providing education. A lot of children who have passed out from the schools have done well at national level. They're actually internationally very well placed there.
Are these schools, or the schools specifically you're talking about, is that meant for the rural? They're meant for
everybody who's in that local area. The people coming from various villages villages nearby, and they're studying. And apart from our own employee children who study there is a lot of intake happening from local. It's world-class education right there in a backward district in MP.
That's at the affordable rates?
Very, very affordable rates, absolutely.
You having, I'm sure, a busy schedule for yourself, are you able to devote enough time to CSR activities as such?
I am actually. I think when it becomes central to the organization, it doesn't become one of the agenda items. I think it becomes pretty much interwoven with everything you do. So if I'm traveling to one of the areas which has a tailoring institute or has one of the educational institute or these villages outreach program that we run, it is way of life for us to be integral to that. So I would go to a school, I would go to a tailoring institute. I would review that every month in my own ways, either linked with businesses or standalone.
Do you think we need a stricter monitoring policy for CSR?
No, I think company law does stipulate a certain amount of private sector investments to be made in CSR, which is a good start, I think, in itself, because if all that money really starts moving in for meaningful activities to develop society, I think there's substantial amount of funding there. What we possibly need is a little stricter NGO-run norms, because there is a lot of NGOs which are active. There are a lot of NGOs which are defunct.
Do you think currently the status we have is like a checkbook CSR, status? And if you think so, what do you think we can do to have a more holistic approach towards CSR?
I don't think it's a checkbook status, and I think more holistic approach is already started building up in the society. I see the awareness gone up, and I think political leadership can play a very big role here. We're seeing the current political leadership at the center really talking about a lot of this inclusive growth policies, whether it's in Make in India, whether it's Skilling India, whether it's about Digital India, which is bridging the digital divide itself, is a very, very big societal commitment, and then getting societies to come together, and it dramatically improves employability for social if digital bridges given to the country. I think that the intent is there, the purpose is there, the vision is there, and a lot more PPP programs, public-private partnership programs, if they all can be run a little more meaningfully with quarterly indices there, matrix there, I think we can have a fairly robust growth in countries like India.
Tell us one policy that you have at Raymond which can be, replicated in other organizations pertaining to CSR.
I think the one which is directly inclusive to their business and is inclusive to society, for example, tailoring. Each of these industries, for example, there are enough sewing machine makers in the country, they can run tailoring institutes there. I think if each industry picks up their requisite skill, which makes their industry unique and is specific to their industry, and really works very closely either with state or the central governments there to bring in, I think you would find enough takers in our current political leadership, statesman-like leadership today to support those programs, even if it can be a guideline that every single industry has to pick up one. So if Infosys picks up technical training,
correct.
If a food processing company picks up farming, if I pick up tailoring, being a Raymond there. So there could be these programs, and you just take one skill or two skills and say that, okay, I'm going to create 1 million, I'm going to create 10 million skilled manpower, particular in respect of my industry. You would suddenly have 100 million people getting more skilled there, and then the program really takes up.
Future programs that you are planning up?
We're just launching a program in Raymond called 3C program, which is Community Connect, a program for tailoring, and we're wanting to connect 100,000 tailors in the country. Now, that would, in the next 3 years, so that would mean that I will reach out in some way, directly or through technology, 200,000 tailors, make sure that they're included in the larger Raymond program in terms of their upgradation of technology, upgradation of skilling, outreach programs, creating more business for them. So we'll be looking at a very, very structured program to really reach out to them.
In about one line, if you can tell me, what is CSR to Raymond?
I think it's the integral purpose of our existence, I would say.
That sums it all.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.